Hello, my name's Mike and this is a video about personal independence payment daily living activity number 8, which is about the help that you need or would need most days to read and to understand what you're reading, and to read in a reasonable time and to an acceptable standard. What do we need to know in order to understand this? Well, the rules talk about reading text that is written or printed in your native language. Native meaning the language you were born to. And the rules talk about reading text that is of a standard size, but they don't actually say what's meant by a standard size. I tend to ask service users about how they manage reading Department for Work and Pensions letters, since it's a Department for Work and Pensions assessment. Department for Work and Pensions guidance says that reading doesn't include remembering what you've read. Even if we accept that's true though, there has to be some point where you have absorbed the information contained within the text in order for you to count as having read it to an acceptable standard. So what do we need to tell them about? As always, I've got my list, and as always the first question on the list is about, do I need to use aids to read? You might think that my glasses would count as an aid, but they don't. They are a device that improves my impaired physical function of seeing, but within this part of the PIP assessment, glasses are specifically excluded from counting as an aid. So, most common aid is probably a magnifying glass. There may be many others. The next question on my checklist, the next thing they need to know about, is do I need prompting, reminding, encouraging, explaining in order to read? They have two grades of this. One asks about, do I need prompting, reminding, encouraging, explaining in order to read basic written information, by which they mean signs, symbols and dates. I always think of the green exit sign, emergency exit sign that is, as being a sign that I can ask people about. Would you understand that? The other grade of this part of the assessment is about whether I can manage complex written information, which means more than one sentence of text. Finally, say you've got your aids, say you've got someone to prompt you, remind you, encourage you, explain things to you. Is it true that you can't read in a reasonable time? Read and understand in a reasonable time. Is it true that you can't read and understand to an acceptable standard? Here's a couple of examples. The first one answers the first question about aids. What we wrote was, I always need a magnifying glass to read things like this form. Simple, straightforward, 2 points. The second example was a woman that I work with who has multiple sclerosis that's caused her to have quite severe brain fog. And this is what she said first of all about prompting, reminding, encouraging, explaining. I struggle to focus on things for long, so I always need someone to prompt and encourage me to read things like DWP letters. My mum always goes through these with me to explain things to me and to make sure that I've understood what I'm reading. We went on though to answer the question about what if you still can't do it? Even with my mum helping me, it takes a long time to read anything. She will sometimes read through something in just a minute, but it takes me 5 minutes or so before I'm confident that I've understood what I'm going through. So what we've explained there is that even with the prompting, reminding, encouraging, explaining, she can't read within a reasonable period of time, which would of course score maximum 8 points. I think the DWP won't go for that. I think they will accept that she needs prompting, reminding, encouraging, explaining in order to read, which would allow 2 points, but they won't go for the maximum point, can't do it in a reasonable period of time. Because she's going to score lots of other points in other parts of the assessment, we don't really care that they're going to get that wrong. But if we needed to at a tribunal will be much more open to accepting that argument. If you want to use my checklist to help you identify the things that you need to tell a decision maker about, there's a link below. I'm sorry, I can't help with individual claims, but if your organisation needs some training, please get in touch.